Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the day of the video down. How's it going today? Today, it's Thursday. It's the last non-Friday weekday of the week. Although every day is Friday, of course. Which means I haven't got changed yet. I'm still in my work clothes because I'm about to cook dinner. And then we're going to go to the gym, so there's no point putting other clothes on. And my gym clothes are too cold, so... lol, this all goes in the wash tomorrow, and I get to... it's dress down Friday, buddy! Right, so ladies and gentlemen, we are waiting for Laura to come back, as per usual, and then I can start cooking as and when I get instructions as to her location. We've just got nice and easy fish and chips. Breaded fish and chips. Which is going to be very good. Whoa, TV! Whoa, 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 whoa! Why did I even turn that on? I have decided that I'm going to sit here and beast out some work on my laptop instead of in there. Otherwise... what's been going on today? Today, woke up this morning, I nearly woke up at 4 o'clock thinking that I needed to be awake. Which is probably down to my body clock, thinking that I only need like 6 hours sleep a night, and I actually got 8, so... Graham's coming out to say hello to us, guys. Hey Graham, how you doing, girl? Like, Jimmy, if you're gonna talk, man, do you have to do it right next to my fucking bed? I'm trying to sleep. Come on, you know what time it is? You know how early in the morning it is, man? But yeah, so we got up ready and headed on into work at the normal time as per usual. Today I have been fighting through the final parts of my refactoring. I've managed to pull down by the end of the day. I had some issues where I found bits where my tests were... there's a long story. The original categorization tests that I wrote, a couple of them were failing because I'd moved some logic from one section of the code and put it somewhere else. But that logic needed to be ran at the second part of the code, so like the new code and the old code clashed. I'd moved all of the clashing parts into the new code, so the old code was gone, but I still had some failing tests, so I figured out that I spotted that there was one area where I was validating if one thing was less than another thing and I did it in the wrong order, and a couple of things like that where I spotted errors that my categorization tests caught, which is very good. And otherwise, I'm fighting the last three things, the last three types of something that I need to validate. I've done one of them. I'm halfway through the last, I say halfway, 80% the way through the second one, and then the third one is like the smallest. Currently, the method I've got has a cyclomatic complexity of 18, which is incredible considering it started off at 161. So I've managed to knock out a lot of that and move it all off into different classes and stuff, and all of those classes can be used and moved around and refactored and stuff. So in theory, if you wanted to say, oh, any item of type X, you go to the chain that's like, oh, the mandatory X validation chain, add some little validation thing, you can pull in a validation rule, you can do this, you can do that. It's great. You can spin off another chain if you wanted to. It's pretty swag. So I'm happy with that. It should mean that by the end of tomorrow I can be finished, which I'm going to be happy about. And then some poor bastard's got to check my pull request. Not going to be jealous of that bastard. But yeah, that's about it really. So otherwise, I am working on my project at the moment. Like calling test methods now in my internal test class runner. I'm at the point where it's now daunting again, like how much I've got to do to get this to run properly, because it's not just a case of that, it's a case of like managing other things, which is a bit of a ball ache. But yeah, it should be fun. We're gonna enjoy ourselves, ladies and gentlemen. That's what I'm looking forward to. It's just gonna have to be a case of where I actually run it a couple of times to make sure I know what's going on. Let's do that. Oh man, ladies and gentlemen. Oh man, indeed. I'm about to head off to bed. Not particularly tired, just a little bit frustrated. We were going to go to the gym today, but we were like tracking. Google now has the ability to like live show how busy somewhere is, and it was like horrendously busy. So we decided that we'd actually go tomorrow, because Fridays are always quiet. And I don't know why we said Thursday, because Fridays are better for like quietness, but I guess Friday you just want to chill out, don't you? So we kind of had dinner, we sat, waited, made the judgment call on how busy the gym looked, and then we sat and watched TV. We did a bit of like programming, bit of looking at like Christmas related stuff, and watched The Apprentice. I'm not happy, ladies and gentlemen, because I'm having problems, significant problems, with my test runner. I don't know what's happening either, because every time I try and debug it, Visual Studio just loses the ability to debug into the code. Like, I'm able to call the tests, I'm able to call, sorry, your eyes dusty, I'm able to call the test methods, I'm able to debug calling the test method, but as soon as I try to do any kind of logic on it, in any way, shape or form, I lose it. So for example, I can't get attributes from the tests because I think that when I try and get the attributes out from the tests, bear in mind I've got like the type, so I've got the type, I've got the assembly, so I've got the assembly which I've loaded using the way that I loaded it. I use that to get myself some types. I get my types and then I go through and select all my methods. Once I got my methods, I try and get the custom attributes off. And I say, hey, have you got this custom attribute? As soon as I try and do anything like that, Visual Studio loses the ability to keep track of any variables. Like, I can't inspect any variable or debug in any way, shape or form. Doing any operation on any of the variables throws exceptions and internal exceptions that I can't see. My guess is that trying to get the attributes either by the built-in methods or by a reflection, by a link and that kind of stuff, I think that then does more reflection calls, which is then using assemblies that I haven't preloaded everything into, which just fucks me. So it's causing me huge amounts of grief. I then managed to get it to the point where I'm able to debug through it because I've added in a couple of assemblies that I think it needs, and those assemblies are being pulled in because of N substitute needs one, XUnit needs one, and it's becoming too problematic because, like, this is just to get it running, and then I'm gonna have to get the I'm gonna have to be able to support asynchronous tests which exist in the XUnit stuff, although I don't want to call them asynchronously. I need to do the ones where it catches errors, I need to do the theories, I need to do the facts, and all of this shit. And I can't get the attributes out, so I don't fucking know, because it just throws fucking left, right and centre. And I've come to the conclusion, I should have come to this conclusion a long time ago, that what I'm trying to do is, it's too fragile. I'm basically rewriting an XUnit test runner because the XUnit test runner doesn't do what it's supposed to do. But I'm trying to do it in a generic way, which means that I'm rewriting absolutely everything, and I have to be able to support everything. So if XUnit adds a feature, I've got to have to add in that feature and support it. I'm basically rebuilding the entire thing. So I've come to the conclusion that, like, this kind of generic approach of having, like, I'm just going to do it with reflection, because I also think half of the problem is the fact that XUnit itself, like the XUnit tests themselves, seem to be doing some kind of reflection, and I think the reflection's like going all over the place, and then it's just kind of tripping itself up. So this leaves me a couple of problems, leaves me a couple of decisions I need to make. I either carry on trying to get this to work, which I want to do, but I think I'm having too many dependencies. I'm getting too... I'm replicating too much stuff, and I'm going to have to support too much stuff as well. And this is just XUnit. Like, I've got to then add everything else on top. I tried the same tactic, but instead of using XUnit, instead of using reflection, I tried to use Roslyn. But I don't think, from what I can't see a way of doing that. I think that still uses reflection, is what I'm saying. It's possible to compile the code and all that kind of stuff and look at a test class and go, right, okay, cool, run. But I think it still uses reflection either side, which screws me. So I think that's out the question, to be honest with you, Roslyn. The next option is the one I'm leaning towards at the moment is to fork the GitHub repository for XUnit, because it's open source, and build inside it, using all of the things it can use, the what were we trying to say? Build. Come on, Jerry. Fork the repository and then build a synchronous test runner that runs in the way that I need it to run, rather than the ones that it has at the moment. Rather than the one that it has at the moment, which is asynchronous and doesn't allow me to time things. I need to be able to time things because I can have infinite loops and I need to spot them and kill them. So there's that. I could fork the repository, push a pull request, if not use my constant repository, and then just try and keep that up to date. But I'm like halfway there because I can just merge it rather than like have to re-implement everything that they ever do. Or, and I don't necessarily think this fixes the problem, completely separate out the test runner from the project and do it in full .NET rather than .NET Core, which has more features and is arguably more reliable. I had parts of it running before. I have no idea if that's a solution either. What I want is the ability to sit down and go, right, 7 hours. Like, you have an entire day, figure it out. And I think it might be the case that it works out better for me to... The two competing decisions here is either attempt to do it in full .NET framework, in which case there's not a 100% guarantee that will work, to say the least. Or I drop my ability. I've still got the problem of if I drop the .NET framework, I've still got to support things. If I drop out of .NET Core and into like an external microservice that just does this thing, which I mean, the testing arm itself is a microservice, so it would be a sub-microservice. Specific for this guy. Again, the problem with even if that is possible, the problem with dropping out to the full .NET suite is I lose the ability to. Well, I don't lose the ability to do that, but it means I have to run it on Windows computers, Windows machines, Windows servers. Not a massive problem, but I'm also trying to support something that I know is difficult to support because it can change over time. Or I just go with trying to fork it and then trying to wrap my head around a different repository, trying to get either add one to their project and then them accept it in a pull request, or have my own version. None of these are good solutions. The problem was I had this running in a why is it that it doesn't run now in... I'm separating things out so that I can test it properly. Which I do think is having a mild effect. I can't figure out the exact effect or why it's having this effect. But even so, like, even if I can fix it, even if it turns out that if I put everything all in the same class it'll work, like, am I like fighting a... I think I should heavily investigate forking the XUnit runners and making my own runner, using all of the shit they use, because then I don't have to use it. I don't have to remake everything all the time. Oh, right. Well, I'm going to go sleep on it, ladies and gentlemen. Piss me off though. If I remember the first time I did this project, for those of you that remember, I hit this problem. This is the hardest problem that is to solve in this entire project, like significantly. Previously, I was using MS Test, the MS Test runner, to run tests in the project. I happen to write it also in the MS Test framework, but I think MS Test runner also runs XUnit stuff. The problem is the MS Test framework doesn't automatically detect and shut down infinite loops. So I was looking into a way of getting around that. That's when I started investigating my own custom test runner using Reflection. I got part of the way there and then got kneecapped by my inclusion of shims from Microsoft Fix because they require certain aspects of Visual Studio in order to run, which means it can only be run with specific instances of Visual Studio or VS Test Runner, and I was trying to do it without those two things, and therefore I couldn't do it. I was just getting shut down. Like, I would have to ignore all of those tests. And being able to dynamically spot on the fly whether those tests existed or not is another question too. So I dropped that. I was obviously in time constraint of the project. I then re-architectured the entire platform so that I was able to manipulate the code prior to running, so that I could add a timeout attribute to every single unit test to say, like, if this unit test takes over a minute, kill it. It's an infinite loop. And that's not a good solution, because, like, how do I maintain that? Do I continually update that over time? Is a minute long enough? Who knows? Like, that's not a great solution, and the idea is that I want to be able to do this without changing the tests in any way, shape or form. The flip side to that as well is that solution doesn't exist for all test frameworks, so if I was to go down that way, I could support NSubstitute, I could support MS Test. I might not be able to support NUnit, I don't know. I definitely can't support XUnit, because XUnit flat out doesn't have that anymore. So, like, that's a limited feature set. That's not solving the solution. It's just like, that's not putting the fire out, that's just hiding it behind a veil of smoke. At some point I'm going to get burnt by that fire. It worked at the time. It worked for my demo purposes. I just avoided the things that I needed to avoid, and it was all fine. Now when I'm trying to do it properly, I'm actually, like, coming back up against that problem. Like, everything else of the project is easy-ish. Like, the combination of it's semi-complicated, but, like, the rest of it's all just a case of structuring it. The problem all comes, every single difficult part of the project is all 100% based around testing it. And that's the bit I'm tackling, that's the bit that I'm finding the hardest, and it's the biggest struggle. I wasn't expecting it to be this difficult. So, yeah. I'm going to head to bed anyway, ladies and gentlemen. It's only 25 past 12, but, you know, it's life, isn't it? Cool. Right, tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, I should be able to finish my refactoring job at work, which is going to be good because I've been doing it for so bloody long, on and off. Like, I've been doing it and /or, like, little migration-y stuff in between. We are also going to the gym directly from work, or / directly from Laura's work, tomorrow, because it's a lot quieter on Fridays than it is on Thursdays, because normal people like have fun Friday nights. And I'm going to be hunting for time to just sit down and, like, devour this code. I think what I want is, like, a day sat in front of Atlas, transfer the code over, put it in front of Atlas, and just, like, fucking dive into it. I think that's what I want, and I feel like just having these, like, hour blocks of time isn't enough for me to get my hands dirty enough. I just kind of get a little bit. Oh, fuck, there's that one gone. Re-architecture. Get a little bit, you know what I mean? No, Jamie. Right, okay, I'm going to sleep on the idea of extending GitHub. Extending XUnit from GitHub. The twist, obviously, to that is that it might be the best solution for X unit, but it's not necessarily the best solution for MS test. Because I don't think MS test is public source. It probably is. Or N unit, I don't think that is. I don't know. It probably is as well. But I'm banking on open source to solve my problem. Fuck knows. I'll catch you later.